Hi, today's lesson we're going to go over what we took in the previous lessons. And in the previous lessons, we talked about conduction. We talked about conduction. We talked about convection, and we talked about radiation. And I told you guys that conduction means the transfer of heat, the transfer of thermal energy from solid material to another solid material. But in some instances, we can have some particles of water getting conduction heat transfer by touching the body of the boiler. Maybe the boiling pot, the pot using to boil the water, there could be heat transfer by conduction when the water particles touch the body of the pot you're boiling with. So there could be heat transfer by the process of conduction through that way also. So it's not compulsory, it has to be from solid to solid. It could be from solid to other materials, maybe to liquids in some cases or some instances. And in convection, to do that, this has to do with the heat transfer, where it is being transferred through gases or through liquids. Now, and I explained to you this, that when you have a transfer from some part of water to another part of water, or from part of liquid to another part of liquid, we say it has to be convection transfer of thermal energy. And gas is also, it can be transferred through gases by the use of thermal energy. And the case with radiation is a transfer. Radiation is a transfer of energy. As waves, transfer energy as waves through matter or empty space, or through empty space. That is to say, there's no need to be any touch or any contact between the materials in which there's a transfer of heat energy from one body to another body. The good example I gave to you now is the example of the sun and the earth's surface. The distance of the sun from the earth's surface is a far distance from each other. Yet there's a transfer of heat by the waves through the matters. The matters means some matters in the air and being sent to the earth's surface. And or we can say the transfer of heat, thermal energy through a vacuum. When it is transferred through a vacuum, it's a kind of heat transfer which we call radiation. And we need to know what an insulator is before we go today. An insulator, it doesn't really conduct heat. An insulator does not easily transfer it. It doesn't easily transfer it. While a conductor does. Now let me take my time to tell you about an insulator again. An insulator is a material that doesn't transfer heat, neither does it transfer electrons. And the reason why it cannot transfer heat energy is because the particles, the electrons in it, are not permitted to move. They're enclosed in an insulator, and the particles, the electrons, are not free to move. But in the case with the conductor, the electrons are very free to move in it. Now, an insulating material are important for clothing and for home building. We have to use insulators when it's cold outside, or when it's when we are in the winter season, when the environment is so cold. we can use insulators or insulating materials for building our homes and also for cloth we put on. Now let's look at a slide I have for you here about what we talk about conductor. Now let's take some kind of class first before we move to that. Now in the slide with materials we call the insulators, the first thing is this. Now you can see here in this picture with this person, this guy is trying to insulate this the ceiling to reduce the amount of heat energy or the thermal energy transferred from the sun to the ceiling, and which is transferred to the building. So this is going to reduce the amount of heat energy transfer, and also this is a way we are using the insulators today. Insulation is used to control temperature and sound in building. Three main types of insulations are the cellulose and the fiberglass, the spray foam. The cellulose are used to reduce insulation, and also the fiberglass, also the spray foam. And also we can have some facts about what we use the insulator for in our homes. Grown since the Victorian age, developed to insulate floors, walls, and roofs. You can see in the picture here, the basement here has been insulated, the floor is insulated, and also the crawl space is also insulated. And the reason why we need to use insulators on our homes is to reduce the amount of heat energy we get or we absorb from the sunlight to make the environment so warm or so cool for we to live in a convenient and comfortable manner. Now let's have some questions before we go about the lessons we took so far. Now what we're looking at today is we have some questions here about convection. Why does hot air rise and cold air sink? Cool air is more dense than warm air, so the cool air falls through the warm air. Why are boilers placed beneath hot water tank in people's home? Sometimes you see we put boilers beneath the hot water. We call the hot water tanks in the homes. We put the boiler is always put underneath. Why don't you put the boiler on top of it? Hot water rise. So when the boiler heats the water and the hot water rises, the water tank is filled with hot water. So that's the good question and answer. Now the next one says, why are houses painted white in hot countries? For example, in Saudi here, you hardly find people paint their houses in black or in red color. Why reflects heat radiation and keeps the house cooler? Why are shiny foil blankets wrapped around marathon runners at the end of the race? You can sometimes when you see the people running races, you put a kind of shiny foil around them. The shiny metal reflects the heat radiation from the runner's back in. This stops the runner getting cold. So the next one, which of the following is a method of heat transfer? Which of the following is not a method of heat transfer? Radiation is a method, conduction is a method, and convection is a method, but insulation is never a method of heat transfer. Now the next one says, in which of the following are the particles closest together? The particles of liquid are free to move, but the movement are reduced because they are not so free compared to the gases. And the gases, they are very free to move. They have extreme kinetic energy. And the fluid, also the particles are moving. Why? But the particles on solid are also moving, but they are closest together than all the particles. Now the next one says, how does heat energy reach the earth from the sun? The heat energy reaches it gets to the earth from the sun through radiation, not conduction, not convection, and not insulation. And the other one says, which is the best surface for reflecting heat radiation? I told you the shiny white surface is the best surface to reflect back heat through radiation. And the last stage says, which is the best surface for absorbing heat radiation? The dull black surface is the best surface for absorbing heat energy for radiation.